Topher, a.k.a. Rave Jesus,
Pew, pew, pew.
a.k.a. the man. Dude, you're so tired right now.
It's okay. I had 2 coffees earlier. I might get a third here soon.
You're so tired.
Tonight.
Okay.
We're just rolling. We're almost at the very end of this like hectic run of things. So it's a little bit survival mode, and that's okay.
That's okay. Last 24 hours. Hit us with it.
Oh, I should probably do the last 48 hours.
You may want to hold the mic just a little closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
So let's see. Today's Thursday. On Tuesday, it was one of the more unique days I've ever experienced in my life where on Monday, flew to New York because there's a Rave Jesus song with this incredibly famous Latin artist named Talia. I mean, her nickname is the Queen of Latin Pop. She is so famous in that world. Like, it is mind-blowing. And we've got this song coming out on May 30th. And so flew to New York because she lives outside of New York to film a bunch of content. And so woke up Tuesday. We did a photo shoot. We did a long-form interview. We did this like taco eating thing. And then we did a few other pieces. And then we threw a pop-up show at Dos Caminos, which is this famous Mexican restaurant on Times Square. And I have famous DJ friends that are very famous in that world and in their home countries are well known. I have never experienced what I experienced on Tuesday before, where people are like pounding on the walls at this restaurant while we're performing the song, and Telemundo and Univision show up, and I was like, this is just different. And like, you know, she travels with personal security because if she's in public, like she's that level of fame, has that level of fame. And so we did this pop-up, and it was awesome. And I remixed one of her famous songs called Arasando, played that. That's what she came out to. Then we premiered our new song. And then she looks at me, and she's like, praise the Lord next. She loves that song. And she's like, play that next. And I was like, all right, we're going to turn this into just like a worship time. She's like, yep. And I play it, and like the place just, everyone's got their hands in the air. It's like a moment. And I was like, whoa, this is, I mean, it happens every show. But like, I was like, in this context, like, I don't know how this is going to be. And it was just so special. And you look around the room and you're like, there's a lot of people here who are in all different areas of life. And this might be the first time they've heard a worship song or felt the Holy Spirit or whatever. I don't know where they're coming from, but it was really powerful. And so we wrap up the pop-up show, and we're hanging out like in the green room area. And she goes, let's get a speaker. And let's just go outside of Times Square and just blast the song on repeat and just walk around and be amongst the fans. And I was like, really? She's like, yep, this is going to be crazy, but it's going to be awesome. And so I was like, all right. So someone from the label went and bought a big JBL speaker, charged it, and we walk outside, and I'm like, there's this sea of people. And all of a sudden, like Telemundo and Univision have their cameras in my face and her face. And she goes, talk to the camera. And I was like, they're going to be like, what is this white dude doing on the news in Mexico City tonight? Like, why is he talking to us in English? Like, who is this gringo? Like, what is the deal here? And she's like speaking in Spanish, and I'm just like, yo, Rave Jesus and Talia, May 30th, 2 More comes out. Yay. And she's like, yeah. And like, and they put the camera back on her. They don't care that I'm there, bro. She like, and we're just getting mauled with people. And like, we just start walking around, and like the song's blasting, and like fans are taking photos, like grabbing us. And I'm laughing because I'm like, nobody here cares that I'm here. And I love that. Like, it was just like, oh, I'm getting a glimpse of what it means to be famous without, like, it's like cost me nothing. Because, like, nobody actually cares about me in this moment. She's just like an absolute mega star. And I'm like, this is wild. But the coolest thing is we're walking around, and like 10 minutes in, we're in the middle of all these people. And she just goes, she grabs my shoulder. She goes, let's just start praying. I'm like, all right. And so we start praying for New York and the people here and this city and what God wants to do. And like, we're being filmed. I'm like, I never, like, this was not on my 2025 bingo card to be like, one, getting mobbed by her, but two, to like be in Times Square being filmed by like all these like Latin huge TV stations. Just like, all right, we're going to go in and just pray right now in front of everybody. And so we do that. And then like to end the whole thing, like we're walking around, like, her team like leads her down to the subway, and we're like, nope, this is about it. So we walk back up the steps, and we take this turn, and there's a hotel, and like they like shove us into the hotel and they close the doors so the public can't get in. And it's just me and her security guards. And I look at her and I was like, is this what it's normally like for you to go out in public? And she's like, if people know where I am, yes. And I was like, this is insane. And she's just smiling. And she's like, yeah, it is. And then she grabs me and she's just like, Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for all these people that will be impacted by the song and all the content that we captured today. And it's going to reach millions of people. And I was like, what is going on right now? Like, this is just insanity. Like, I have been around, like, I have friends and, like, we'll go to dinner and in DJs in their home country, like, people will stop, hey, can I get a picture? But they can be normal people and walk around. This is the first time where I'm like, oh, you can't do normal people things, because as soon as people find out you're there, like, everything, it becomes like a moment. And it was hilarious and definitely the most like unique thing I've maybe ever experienced. So that wraps up. And then like 30 minutes later, like, I'm walking through Times Square with like some guys from the label. I'm like, nobody cares. And I was like, yep, nobody cares. Like, and I loved it. Like, I'm just a normal dude, you know? And yeah, and then we went and had dinner, and then we were all there for the night. And some guys from the label were like, let's go get tattoos. So like 11 o'clock in New York, we find this tattoo shop. And we all went and got matching tattoos. And that was the day. And then I woke up the next day, and then we went on a ferry ride, you know, to go look at the Statue of Liberty, and then went to the airport. And then my flight was delayed for 7 hours, and then flew into Denver last night. And now we are here. So it was just like here we are. This is what happens when you are obedient to the Lord, apparently.
So because you're processing, you're in the middle of a tour.
Yeah.
And when you think about the last 48, what do you learn from that? Because you kind of just hit on it right there at that last statement, I think. But like, what do you really, if you were to encompass, here's what I learned, here's where I'm at, here's how I'm feeling, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Fill in that blank for us, if you don't mind. Because you're in the middle of...
Yeah. I mean, there's different layers to it. I mean, there's just the practical thing of, you know, I'm at the tail end of this run of shows, and I'm tired, and it's like, okay, I've got a family, I've got kids. The fall tour needs to be a bus tour. Like, because it just practically, like, I'm tired, my body hurts, and I'm away from my kids and my wife. Like, how do we get things to the point where we can tour this on a tour bus and it actually make financial sense and everything? And just because it just sets you up for more success as a human being when you can sleep regularly, you're not sitting delayed in the airport and tired and eating airport food and all the things. Like, you can just have a bit more of a normal life when you're on a tour bus, because you finish a show, you fall asleep on a bus, you wake up in a new city, and you're like, oh, I have the whole day, go to the gym, take a nap, be with friends and family. Like, it's way more functional. So there's the very practical sense of that. There's the reality of God's just so much bigger with what he wants to do than maybe I imagined with some stuff. I never wanted to really do the Rave Jesus thing. I've always loved Jesus, and I love dance music, and I would always, like, my music's always written from that place. But the overtly Christian thing, I was like, I just don't, like, Christian art and culture has been pretty cheesy and tacky and not great. And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to just go make house music that's great, house music that carries the heart of the Father, and then that allows me to go to countries and places that the church can't. And I've experienced that. And so I never wanted to give that up, or maybe this is the wrong way of looking at it, like turn my back on it, if you will, and be like, oh, I'm going to go this way. But, you know, I was sitting there having coffee this morning and just sitting, you know, just looking around like, wow, like, the Lord's super kind. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing, and this is his idea, and he was so kind to invite me into it and say, hey, I want to do this with you. And this is what I have for you in the process, if you'll trust me. And a lot of me had to die because I thought I'll never play the festivals and the shows and the places that I love to be at, because I love being amongst the people that don't know the Lord and they don't go to church. They don't care. I love being in those places and getting to share Jesus with them. But, you know, he was like, hey, trust me. Trust me. I'm like, all right. And so there's all this stuff that had to die. And like now I'm getting to see in a very practical, real-time sense of like, yeah, the obedience of trusting him rather than these other like dreams and desires that I have is going to lead to just way more fruit in every area of life. And it's not that the other stuff was bad. He's like, I got something even better. And so getting to see it in real time of like the tour dates are selling out. You know, Vegas tomorrow night sold out too. Like it's like, okay, this is not what I was anticipating. I was not anticipating going and getting mobbed in Times Square because one of the biggest Latin artists in the world wants to do a song together. Like none of this was stuff that I thought was going to be part of this process. And it just shows how like he will connect any of the dots possible for music and art and people to come together to create something that's going to share his heart to reach his kids. Like he'll do anything. And it's pretty humbling to get to be a part of that process. We're like, wow, you offered me this opportunity? Like, geez. Like I was sitting there just like weeping at coffee this morning, partially because I'm so tired and just like vulnerable and emotional. But part of it is just like, you're like, wow, I like me? Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's very kind of you, Lord.
Okay. So where does that come from for you? Meaning, like, why do you care so much about what you're doing in the sense that you want, like you said, you really want people that are far from God or that don't know Jesus? You like being around those people. Mm-hmm. Where does that come from you? And maybe even give us a little bit of the backstory of this new iteration of you that is Rave Jesus.
I think it comes from, you know, I grew up in this wonderful town in Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis, and I was the only kid who had turntables. You know, so it was this interesting like dynamic of like I'm the captain of the soccer team, like dating like the hottest girl in the school, but then like my hobbies, like people are like, what is this? Like, why do you listen to this European techno music? Like, this makes like none of us understand this and have any grid for it whatsoever. And so it was always this, like, the things that I loved and came alive, that made me come alive, like, nobody really understood. But my parents were always like, if you love it, great. And which was super cool, you know, because they weren't these, like, super weird, eclectic parents who were like, yeah, get into dance music. Like, that's not at all it. But they saw my passion for it. And so I've always loved, like, things that made me come alive were always kind of like outside of the church, because church culture was just not that. It's like, hey, this is kind of what we do. And I'm like, this is kindly, like, it's really boring and it's like just not fun or enjoyable. And like, if this is who Jesus is, like, I get why a lot of people don't want to be a part of this. And so I would sneak out and go to raves, and I never did drugs at them. Like, I was never interested in like the drug party culture. I just loved the music. I would listen to music. I'm like, I come alive here. And then I go to church, stay up all night, and then I go to church on Sunday. I'm like, this is so boring. Like, this is like, you people just kind of look miserable. Like, what's going on? And so I've always had this thing of like, I just want to go where the people are that like don't fit in like church culture, but like Jesus loves them. And if they met him, they would fall in love with him. And so like, I've been able to travel the world and go to so many countries. You know, I've been to Pakistan, like, and I've like looked at people in the face, and I'm like, oh, you've never heard true hope and true joy and true peace. Like, you've never heard about that. You've never heard about the man of Jesus. And you see, you know, you read these stories in the Bible, like crippled people being lining the streets, and like that exists in Pakistan, and you're like, oh, they have no hope other than the gospel. And like, if we don't give it to them, like, they'll never experience it. And like, I go to China and I'm backstage and playing this festival that's sponsored by Budweiser, and everyone in the green room is just like partying except me. And like everyone's super friendly and kind, but like they're partying. And there's this one guy who walks up to me and goes, dude, there's something different about you. I don't understand this. Like, you're not partying and doing everything like everybody else, but like you're so content and you feel, it seems like you're so secure in who you are. Like, explain this to me. And I'm like, do you really want to know?
Are you sure?
Like, I honestly said that. My response was, do you really want to know? And he was like, I do. And I go, it's Jesus. And he goes, what? And I go, yep, it's Jesus. And he's like, explain this to me. And so I start sharing the gospel to this guy. And he's like, I've never heard this. And you're like, I lay awake in bed at night thinking about those moments. I do not lay in bed thinking about, I'm making more music for Christians that already know Jesus. So when I'm in the studio and I'm making music with anybody, like, I don't think about, like, do these people know Jesus? I'm like, Lord, what is your heart? How can I put that into a song that if anybody listens to it, they're going to encounter your heart? Not, you have to have a grid for Christian culture to understand this. And so I don't, it sounds so terrible. Like, I don't think about the church. I don't. Like, I have friends that, like, their worship leaders, like, they're like, I just care about the church. I'm like, I don't think about the church. I never fit in church culture, and I never like ostracized by any means, but people are just like, I don't get this.
You're not angry.
No, like, I have
You're
no,
not mad,
like,
you're not mad at church.
I love the church.
Sure,
we need it.
There it is.
But the problem is, like, the church just has, like, done things in a way where, like, they're just not reaching
right
a lot of people that need it. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to go there. And I wrestle in bed at night thinking about those people and going, how can I, with the way that I live my life and the art that I create, like, how can I make worship music for people that have never met God? And not people that are like, I'm just going to give them another song that they can just sing and yeah.
Right. But they get to a point of where they say, why is this different? This is different. Why do I want more of this? Why is this changing how I feel and think? And it's adding to my life. And okay, so as you think about maybe the influences, I'd love to know the different artists that have influenced you as you've kind of come up through, your come up and like, hey, look, I follow Jesus, but I've been influenced by this music because there's something about it. And so how do you bring that? Who influenced you, and then how do you bring that together?
Yeah. Well, first off, you mentioned something about, like, the people that are experiencing the music and, like, why is this different? Like, why do I feel different? What is this? Like, at the show in Dallas, it was like a week and a half ago now, or 2 weeks ago. This dude rolls up and he's on shrooms. I don't know how the show sold out 3 weeks in advance. Like, I don't know how, like, if he just bought a ticket, he's like, I want to go to a rave. I don't know what the story is of how he even got there, but he shows up at the show and he's on shrooms. And my friend is talking to him, and he's like weeping. He's like, is this what Christians are like? Is this like who Jesus is? He's like, wow. If this is what this is like, I need to know this guy. And you're like, I don't know what to say. Like, at that moment, you're like, I don't know what else to say as far as, like, what the heart is of what we're doing. Because if that isn't it, like, I don't know. But it's wild to me that stories like that are happening. Because he came in the room and he was like, there is something different about this. All my preconceived notions about Christian music or Christian and Christian culture just got blown out of the water. And the dude's on drugs, and he's like, I need to meet Jesus because whatever this is better than anything I've experienced before. And so I love that. And so, yes, exactly. That type of stuff's amazing. Influences, people that I've been influenced by. Oh, man. I started DJing in 1999. So been doing this for a minute. But my favorite artist when I first started out, it was when Napster was really big. And I would just type in, like, trance, techno, European dance music. And it's like Tiesto, Armin van Buuren, Paul Van Dyke, Paul Oakenfold. Like, those were the first kind of Ferry Corsten, like the first wave of artists. And so, trance music was huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it was all that stuff. And then there's this group called Gabriel in Dresden that made, like, the coolest music it was very song-based. and like they knew how to make great dance music and have it be very song based. I was like, okay, this is special, and they were unbelievable in that era. But like Tiesto was one of the biggest influences early on, and he signed a bunch of my music, and he had me come do some shows with him, like in 2008, and that was super impactful. And then from there, you know, Armin, huge. He was a big supporter of a lot of music. I had multiple like Tune of the Weeks on A State of Trance, which is his massive radio show. That was all in like the 2000s, and then you know, EDM blows up in like 2011 through 2016. Skrillex signed on my records, and that popped off, and that kind of allowed me to tour in North America a ton in 2012 and 2013. And then moved to England. Don Diablo signed my first record as it was King Arthur back then, King Topher legally. We can talk about the whole lawsuit stuff later. But, so he really championed that project. And the first song came out on his label, exploded. Second song, same thing. You know, within a year, I'm playing at Tomorrowland because of like, you know, him and like just, it was the right, like he was so influential because he was the hottest DJ at the time, and his label that he started was just like, everything was just crushing it. And so he was, I mean, he's still just, he's a friend. I was with him the other week in LA. Massive influence on me, especially in that phase of my career, just like so incredible. And, you know, now I listen to I just listen to everything. I listen to a lot less dance music now and a lot more just stuff that gets my mind off of like work. So I'm obsessed with Cigar Rose. I have been forever. I think they're the greatest. Like, I think that's what heaven's going to sound like. He made up his own language of singing called Hope Landic. You're like, if that's not singing in tongues, I don't know what is. But do you know Cigar Rose?
Yeah, I do.
Bro, just greatest concert I've ever been to as well. I've been to like
cool.
4 or 5 of them now. I'm like, this is otherworldly good.
Yep.
But so I love listening to stuff like that. I mean, your classic like Coldplays, all that stuff. But I listen to a lot less dance music now, unless I'm working out or like actually making music.
So and what's cool that I'm even hearing and that I know a little bit about you, and what people I want people to kind of even hear even in this moment is how you progressed the skill in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe not of it, but definitely in it.
Yep.
And then now why did you make the adjustment? Because now you're making, you were a Jesus follower.
The whole time, yep.
The whole time. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because you're a Jesus follower in the middle of a lot of secular music and spaces, which is awesome. Sick. It's great. And then you're like, I'm going to do this new thing. Why did you, or what made you make that? Because that's a big jump.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy jump. Because you're like, I don't even know if this is going to work. Because you're in a very successful spaces, specifically in the DJ world. All of those names, you're touring with them, labels, next
I got to play on the main stage at Tomorrowland.
Yes, I was just about to say.
That's for any band being like, I played at the main stage of Coachella. Like, that is like the biggest stage you can play on in dance music in the world. And it's like,
and the sets are crazy.
Within 2 years of starting that project, I'm on the Tomorrowland. You're like, this is insane. So like, it was wild to just experience all that stuff and be like, wow, this is, like, it was like all these things that I've dreamt of, like, had been happening. And, so the Rave Jesus story in 2018, I signed a record deal with Republic. So same label like Drake, Taylor Swift, Post Malone, all those people. They've got a dance music division called Casablanca. So I signed a deal with them. And I just, in the whole process of it, like, it was a very incredible learning experience. It was not super fruitful professionally, but an amazing learning experience that I'm super grateful for now. In the time, I was like, this is terrible. Like, why is nothing working? But I was like, we got to just be praying for the industry. Like, just specifically every week, like, let's just get together for an hour and pray for the industry. And so a couple friends and I would get together every week and we'd pray for God's heart for dance music, the music industry, how we can love it, how we can bless it, how we can just capture his heart for what he wants to do in music. And I called it the Rave Jesus call. Just thought it was a cool name. And so did that. And then 2019, a few more people joined every week praying. 2020, like January 2020, I felt very strongly the Lord was like, you need to open this up to the public and just invite anybody who wants to hop on. So did that, started that in January. Well, what happened in March of 2020? All of a sudden, there's people from all over the world and all different areas of the industry hopping on this call, being impacted by Jesus. And we're just praying for the industry, and we're praying for people, and we're giving people prophetic words, and they're getting healed. Like all sorts of crazy stuff starts happening on this Zoom call that happens once a week. And we're just like, all right, God, like, cool. Like, yeah, you do you. Like, we're going to keep showing up, and you just do you. And all with the intent of, like, how do we love the music industry? Because I believe, like, God made all the sounds, so all the genres are supposed to showcase his beauty and his nature. And so the music industry was his idea before it was anyone else's. It's like, how do we have it look more kingdom than it does now? And yeah, so then there's that. And then in 2023, the end of 2022, the Lord was like, hey, do this writing camp in January 2023, invite these people. And the whole intent is, how do we make, like, I was always making like worshipful house music. Like, it is like the only goal for this writing camp is to make worshipful house music. And like, that is the, like, how do we just, this is all we're going to make. And it was awesome. And then fast forward a few more months, and the Lord's like, hey, let's start doing events that are branded as Rave Jesus shows. I was like, what? Like, yeah, like it's the heart of the call, but just in an event form. And so did a show in LA with Evergreen Church, and it sold out in like 8 hours. And then the show was super fun. And I was like, oh, this is the thing. Because if it couldn't happen in LA, I'm like, it's not going to work anywhere else. And it was awesome. And then it just turned into, oh, everything needs to be branded in this lane because there's something here that I've never seen or experienced before. And the Lord just kept talking to me about all this stuff. And like in the process, like parts of me are dying because I just didn't want to jump fully into this lane because I didn't want to ever I understand the industry and I know people, and I know that if you blatantly brand something as Christian, there's going to be people in the industry like, I want nothing to do with this. And I'm like, I don't want to cut myself off from all the people that I've been able to go impact because it's branded as Christian. The Lord's like, no, I'm their savior, not you. Trust me. I need you over here. We need to build a movement and not just be you doing this. We need to create a whole generation doing this that can go in and love the industry like I want it to. And I'm like cussing God out in the car, being like, I don't want to do this. Like, He's like, look, bro. He's like, this is what I want to do. So it can be you or it can be somebody else. And I'm like, all right, I guess I got to say yes. And so it was like, we're going all in on the Rave Jesus thing. And then everything just kind of, everything just kind of started happening. And the songs being positioned, it's not like the songs are any different, but when you brand something and position something in a different way, it gets received very differently. And so everything starts kind of building and happening. And I'm part of me is still like, what is going on? Like, I don't know about this. I'm never going to get back to Tomorrowland. I'm never going to get back to these places that I love. But no, then the Lord would there was one vivid day where he showed me like, hey, he goes, this is going to be, you're going to start doing everything in this lane that's parallel to the industry. It's to become a movement. Then it's going to get invited back in the industry. And so just know that is going to happen. And he showed me a few specific festivals and things. And I was like, okay. And some of that stuff's happening now. And I'm like, yep, I got to just trust you. But it was this long, like, hard process of, like, because it goes back, like, my heart isn't for the church or, like, for Christian culture. Like, my heart is for people, whether they know him or not. And I didn't want to do anything that was going to cut me off from reaching people. And that's where I had to just die to the fact of, like, all right, you know better than I do. You know how to reach your kids better than I do. Yeah, and so then it's happening, and we start releasing music, entitled Rave Jesus stuff, and then it's all like, oh wow, shows start selling out. And we did a deal with Sony. Provident was their Christian label or Christian division, and started the first ever Christian dance music label that's part of a major label, and then like the biggest Latin artist in the world reaching out to me, being like, I love Jesus. I've never done anything in the Christian space, but I've always wanted to. Like, let's do something together and be my first event. And I'm like, this never happened with just like my other stuff. And that's what I think has been like really wild to see, is all these opportunities that are happening never happened over here. It was always good, but it never ticked into that like insane momentum threshold, which it'd touch it, like Tomorrowland. But that playing Tomorrowland didn't launch anything else. Signed to the biggest label in the world. Really cool moment. Didn't launch into anything else. At one point was managed by the same manager as Swedish House Mafia. Didn't launch into anything else. And it was like the Lord was like, I'm going to give you tastes of all these things you've dreamt of. And you're going to realize like it's not about that. I'm going to give you your dreams.
Okay.
I'm going to give you your dreams, and you're going to go, okay, I did them. And he's like, great, you've checked off everything on your list. And he's like, let's do it this way. And you're like, oh, I hate you, and you're so good. And then like I'm looking around, like, this is just wild. And then here I am, 48 hours ago, getting mobbed in Times Square. Like what's going on? So this is like wild whirlwind of like, I hate this. I want to die. And then I did have to die. And it's like, you get all these prophetic words, you have these dreams and these hopes and these things, and you're like, none of those are bad. But if I'm not willing to put them in front of the Lord and say, you can kill him if you want to, because I only just want you, the best of what he has for you will never happen unless you're willing to do that.
Topher, I'm sitting here, and you're talking, and that was a long run.
It was. People are like, this guy just talked
no,
on the podcast.
No.
This isn't
I
a
could
conversation.
not. No, I could not interrupt,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to. I didn't want to, because I'm just sitting here, and I'm just like, I'm a little bit at a loss for words because of how the level at which you were living was the best. And it's like when God gets involved in the next thing, everything comes to you. You don't go to it.
Yeah. And that's what
I'm learning, right?
No,
even just as I'm listening to it.
And that's what I think been one of the wildest things with the whole Rave Jesus thing is he told me, like, there are certain ways you kind of build a DJ career typically. It's
tell me.
You
give us the structure.
I mean, one, you got to make really great music. Like that's it all. I mean,
yeah, stop making bad music.
You got to make good music. And then the way things work in dance music, as far as like a record getting the most publicity possible, is if other DJs are playing the record. And so you're hoping that if you release a song on the right record label that's got momentum and is hot, then the right DJs are going to play it, and that's going to just reach tons and tons of people, and you get clips and you push it and all those different things. And I've experienced it. I signed to Don Diablo's record label. He's the hottest DJ at the moment. He plays my record. All these other DJs start playing your records, and it's like everybody hears your music all the time, and all of a sudden it becomes a thing. And so I've experienced that momentum where all the right people are behind it and playing it. And then like my agents at the time, the agency I was signed to, they did Avicii, they did Swedish House Mafia, they did Alesso, DJ Snake. And so you're like, they have all the leverage and the momentum as a booking agency. So I've had all the right things, all the right people behind you to have a record and a career happen. And I tasted all of the moments, but it never felt like people weren't there for like me as an artist. It was like just part of the momentum of everything. Where this project, it's like there's no momentum from anyone else. And the Lord was like, you're not going to send these records to people. You're not going to promote things like a typical DJ. You're just going to make the music, and you're going to post on social media all the time and position it like this. And then real fans are falling in love with it. Every listener on Spotify is not because of a playlist. I've had songs go nuts on Spotify, 60 plus million streams, did absolutely nothing for my music career whatsoever. Was never asked once at a show to play that song. So I've had like all the things that like you think make things happen, and it did nothing. And then the Lord's like, hey, we're going to do this totally backwards compared to how people in dance music build songs in a career. You're not going to post to anybody. You're not going to reach out to anybody. You're not going to promo it anywhere. You're just going to post online and post online and post online. And then shows are selling out. Shows are selling out. Records are getting momentum. Fans and people are falling in love with this. And now, like, I'm with Don a couple weeks ago in LA. He's like, dude, this music's nuts. He's like, this could be huge. He's like, it's that good. He's like, why isn't it bigger? I'm like, well, because I'm not building it like this over here yet. And then, like, this manager hit me up this morning who, he's a friend of mine, has been for years, but he manages two of the biggest artists in the world in dance music. And he goes, I love what you're doing. You found your lane. This is so fun to watch. Like, you're crushing it. And it's like, oh, yeah, people are noticing. And then Talia, she's one of the biggest Latin artists ever. A reel pops across her Instagram feed. And she was like, this is awesome. She starts following me. I put up a clip at the end of the year. 2024 is proof that God loves dance music. She responds, sends me a DM. She goes, this is so inspiring. I want to connect. And we talk. We end up doing a song together. And that's like, there's no like master plan other than like, Lord, what do you want to do today? I'm going to do that. And everything, I feel like everything I learned in the music industry, like, all had to die and just go away. And then it's like, we're going to do this. And it seems really backwards to most people, but it's absolutely crushing it because the Lord's on it.
Teach everyone right now. Okay. Teach everyone right now how to do that exact thing. Lord, what do you want to do today? I'm going to do that. How does somebody get there?
I wish I had some like magic.
But
I mean, practically,
yeah,
like
sure.
you're just gonna have to die to any way you think things need to be done, or any beliefs or strategies that you think this is how we do it. And none of those things are bad. Like, I want to make that very clear. Wisdom and strategy and like planning, none of that is bad. But the filter in which that happens is not like we filter what God's doing through those things. It's like, no, we look at what God's doing, and then from there we build the plan and the strategy, and we follow that. And so, I mean, you just got to be really humble and let the Lord just crush anything in you that isn't needed. And it sucks. Because for like a year and a half, I was like, I hate all of this. Like, this feels like hell. Like, I hate this. And like, I felt like I was just like wandering the wilderness, like, what on earth is happening? And like, this makes no sense. And I feel like I'm just treading water, and I'm looking around like, there's no land in sight anywhere. Am I an idiot? Like, genuinely, you're like, you wake up and you're like, I have a family. And like am I insane? Or is my obedience going to lead to exactly what the Lord said is going to happen? And you have moments where like everyone around you is going, I don't know, bro. Looks kind of dumb. Like,
What kept you going then?
I'm going to use healthier words when I say this. But I have I very much have when the Lord says something to me, I literally do not care what anybody else thinks. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do it, and you can deal with it.
Why is it worth it? Why is it worth it?
Because
why is it worth it to do? I love this. I'm going to do what the Lord tells me to do no matter what. Why is that worth it to you?
Well, because I've experienced, like, also like just this idea, like the world has stuff to offer that's better than Jesus. Like, it's just not real. Like, I've played the main stage. I've had 200 million streams on Spotify.
You say Tomorrowland, I literally have it in my brain of like what it looks like every year, because it's craziest thing I've ever seen.
I've tasted all the things that you think are like, wow, and they're really cool. Like, they don't make my family life better. They don't make me a better person. Like, Jesus does that stuff. And so, like, when you've experienced the best of what the world has to offer, and I don't mean these in like worldly, like a negative way, but you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, and it's never as great as you think it's going to be.
Ooh,
and so
that's good.
when you've experienced the peace and the joy and the hope and the forgiveness and the grace of Jesus, you're like, yeah, none of this other stuff even remotely compares. So then it just gets to the point where you're like, am I actually just going to keep choosing this over this every day? And you just have to get there. And like, I'm at the point now in life, I'm like, look, I don't care what dreams, what prophetic words you have, what success you have, what accolades you have. I don't care. Like, there's nothing that's going to be better than what he has to offer. And just the younger you can understand that and you're willing to go down that path, like the better your life's going to be and the more fruitful it's going to be. And it took me in my 30s to really get to that place. Like, start when you're 18 and let your 20s be awesome with him. Like, it's just what he has to offer is just way better. And we read it all the time and we hear it, but it's another thing to actually like choose that.
When you look at your life right now, you are and you said this kind of earlier, but you're riding a huge wave right now of momentum that you have identified multiple times, even in this conversation, that it's not you, because everything's backward in a lot of ways, upside down, flipped.
That's why the smiley face is upside down, people, and stop thinking it's demonic and evil and satanic.
Hold on.
I get so many messages like, this is so demonic. Your smiley face is upside down. You're leading people to hell. And you're like, no, it's because the smiley face comes from early rave culture in the 90s and 2000s, and it was associated with things that aren't kingdom, but the logo is super cool. And I'm like, what would God do what does God do when he wants to redeem things? And what does Jesus do? He comes and he flips them upside down. The first shall be last. The last shall be first. So let's flip it upside down and make it more kingdom. Like, that's what it is. But people blast me all the time. And I'm like, get some better discernment, folks. It's like, you don't know what's going on. Also, just understand context before you start shooting your mouth off on things. But sorry. Anyway, that's my rant about the upside-down kingdom we live in with Jesus.
That was the next question. So it's been super easy. And everyone's really happy for you.
Bro. I mean, I love it. I think it's hilarious because I'm like, one, who has the time to argue online? Like, go get a life. Two, like, just because you're not used to it doesn't mean it's evil. That's a big problem Christians need to just understand. It's like, just because you're not used to it or it's outside of your context of like the culture you understand doesn't mean it's evil. But like, man, I had a post over the weekend that just did super well on TikTok and did super well on Instagram. And
what does super well look like? Just for
I think like over the weekend, like in the first 48 hours, like 200,000 views.
There it is, yeah.
Which for where things are at now, like that's good. I mean, the collaboration post with Talia that I did yesterday has like 400,000 views in less than 24 hours. Like, that's a different level of just reaching people.
Yeah.
But for just posts from me or Rave Jesus,
that was a collaborative.
Yeah, like
it's different. Yeah.
I mean, if you start getting 100,000 views in 24 hours, you're like, oh, there's something happening here. And it reached a ton of people who just had really strong opinions about God and dance music and the collaboration between the two and what worship is and isn't. And, people like, you're leading people to hell. This is demonic. Like, the biggest one is like, we're supposed to be separate and different from the world. And I'm like, dude, he's not talking about a musical genre when he's talking about your heart posture of like, we're not supposed to live in the flesh. Like, synthesizers and piano aren't what's worldly. It's like, what are you doing with them? What's the intent? What are you trying to create with them? That's
motive
what's worldly. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, kindly, I'm like, how are Christians so dumb when it comes to like what God is actually saying in the Bible? Like, this is where I'm like, Lord, like, just help my heart, because I want to just blast these people. But I love Jesus, so I try to be somewhat nice. But like, people just love to shoot their mouth off on the internet, and there's also like no repercussion for it. Like, I'm never going to see these people in person, and so and no matter what the topic is, people on the internet are just like, I'm going to say whatever. But there's this one guy who every single post on TikTok just posts 3-4 times how demonic and evil and this is fake Christianity and this is leading people to hell. And you're like, I was like, dude, like, do you have a life? Like, how do you have time to sit on my TikTok page and just like argue. Like, and I go, what if you spent this energy going and loving people out in the world? Like, what would happen? But yeah, there's lots of Christians who
You're understanding what a keyboard warrior.
Oh, I mean,
looks
like, dude, I laugh. And here's the thing. I will respond a few times. One, I think, like, there's some stuff I'm just going to push back on. But, like, thank you for spiking my algorithm. Your engagement with my post means it's going to reach more people that it actually is going to impact.
That's what I was about to say, too.
And so, like, I'm like, after, like, 3 or 4 posts, I'm like, dude, thank you so much for boosting the algorithm. And they're like, oh, you care about the algorithm? I'm like, actually, I do. Because I do care about reaching people. I'm not, like, the algorithm is not the North Star of why I do anything, but I understand the world we live in and social media and how if something hits, it's going to reach a lot of people, and I want to reach people to then encounter Jesus.
So as a Christian, should we be fearful or hate social media? Because social media, it has a mind and a brain, and it's in charge, right? Or because so social media is evil. Social media is evil.
No, man, when people are like, this is so worldly, how can you da-da-da? I'm like, dude, you're literally posting from your iPhone on TikTok claiming something is worldly. I'm like, and you have to be different in the world. I'm like, you're literally just using like an Apple phone on internet. That none of this is created by Christians, but like, but this genre of music is like the problem with it all. Like, no, but social media is it is what you make it out to be. Yeah. It's like a piano. I'm like, it's there. It's a neutral thing that exists, and whatever you do to engage with it determines the fruit of it. And so you as a Christian, you can use social media in super destructive ways, or you just as a person, or you can do really cool things that, like, Rave Jesus only exists because social media. That's how anyone has found out about all of this. I literally ask people that buy VIP tickets to the show, and there's at the meet and greet, like, how did you find out? TikTok, Instagram. So God can use it.
How has that changed what you're doing, and how would you encourage? Because one thing that I'd love to get your mind on, and even just have you speak into, you're talking about a movement and setting up the next generation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to spend a few minutes, maybe even ask a few questions around that, because I love that. And I love how you're thinking about it, and I love how you're thinking about inanimate objects, that they're just there. And so I think we need to have more intentionality and more safeguards and more people involved in our decision-making process. So let's not be naive.
No, don't be an idiot.
Don't be naive, but also don't blame.
But
what I'm
don't
saying?
Be afraid of things.
Sure.
Like, is fear the motivator?
Right.
And if it is, like, well, then you should just spend time with the Lord. Like, why is fear leading my decisions and the way I view things? Because as Christians, I don't think that's the way the lens we're supposed to look at things through. But also, like, use wisdom, be mature, like,
Use a team if you need to. Use your parents. They're helpful sometimes in making sure that you're, like, use someone that cares more about you than you care about you. It's like
that's good.
That's helpful. It'll guard us from the comments that we really want to make sometimes on social, which is that's helpful though. Yeah, because it keeps us living the life that we really want to live and that we need to live. Okay, so but movement. Yeah. Next generation. Why do you think this is good for the next generation? And then how are you actually inspiring a movement?
I think it's good for the next generation because I think it's powerful that they're all going to grow up thinking like we can use anything, any form of creativity to worship and honor the Lord, which when I was growing up, that was definitely not the case. Christian music sounded like this, and art kind of looked like this, and fashion looked like this, and none of it was good in my eyes. Creatively, like, so it isn't like nothing about this is like excellent and inspiring or it doesn't move me necessarily. And I'm not saying that all Christian music was bad, but like it didn't inspire me in my music. But if we believe God is the creator that he says he is, and he made all the sounds, so then all the genres, all of them exist only because of him, and they're all supposed to be used to worship and honor and glorify him. I love that for the 10-year-old kid that shows up to my show, like, oh, they're going to think this is normal. that you can be a DJ and worship the Lord. When I was growing up, that was not on anyone's radar. And so I love that the boxes that people put God in, especially creatively, are just being blown open. And what's going to happen is then, like, when they grow up having the freedom to explore their creativity with the Lord in all different sounds and genres and styles, like, the art we're going to get out of that is going to be mind-blowingly amazing. And, you know, there's a girl at the show in Dallas. She's front row, and she came with her mom. She's 11. And she's, like, weeping during the show and encountering God. And you're like, what is it going to look like for that generation? Like, that this is what they grow up experiencing. And then, like, the art that they're going to create. And then selfishly, I'm like, well, that generation is going to be the generation that impacts my kids. And those are going to be the artists that are going to be launched that then my kids listen to. They're not going to listen to my music. They're going to listen to the generation behind me. And I'm like, I want to help raise up that generation so then my kids can be listen to the most insanely amazing, incredible music that's healthy and functional in kingdom. And so I care about this because, like, I just love that. I mean, there's a little bit of selfishness of, like, I wish this would have existed when I was a kid.
Come on.
You know? I do. I like, man, you know how cool it would have been to, like, not have to sneak out to raves and, like, go listen to music that I loved. It'd be cool if it was, like, just part of, oh yeah, this is great, and I can go to this, and my parents love it, and whatever. But, you know, God never thinks about it's never about a person. It's never about, like, a moment. It's always about legacy and generation, and whatever he's doing is never for just that thing. And so how can Rave Jesus as a movement give people permission to go after what the crazy dreams that God's put in their heart that he wants to do with them, that then can last longer than that moment or that era? Like, this can't just be a fun 5 years.
Come on.
This has to be 5 years that then launches the next 50 years. And if I'm not thinking that way, then I don't think I'm doing justice to the Father's heart of how he operates. And it's never just for one generation. It's always for a generation unto the next generation, unto the next generation.
Decades, not days.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's a much shorter way of saying that 5-minute speech I just gave.
No, that's good. That's
Decades,
good.
not days. That's great.
Come on. He thinks we got to start thinking in decades, not days. And it's like, oh man, that's like, I heard someone say that one time, and it was like, hey, if you really want to see a move, you got to think in decades, not days. Because it's going to take that kind of consistency, that kind of longevity, that kind of endurance. We're going to have to take steps that every day in that direction.
Yep.
And then we'll look back, and then we'll see, whoa, this is how far we've come.
See, I answer when people ask me, like, what advice do you have to, like, make it and have a career? I'm like, if you knew it was going to take you 20 years to get there, would you say yes?
Come on.
If you wouldn't, just stop. Because you won't have the consistency and the grit and the perseverance to actually walk this out when it's hard and tough. Not that I want it to take 20 years for these people, but it is that, like, are you thinking long term, or are you thinking, like, this is hard today, so I don't know? It's like, well, but it's, yeah, like, it's that long term, like, generational, like, in 20 years, what's the impact of this going to be? And yeah, I just, God cares a lot about all the generations, and what he's doing is never just for one.
Man, dude, I'm so excited for your show tonight here in Denver. I think it's gonna be a blast. As you think about rave culture, are you worried about it versus? Okay, so if you ask somebody, Christian person, whatever, it's like, aren't you worried about rave culture kind of getting involved on all the bad things about rave culture, or negative things, or hurtful or damaging things getting into your shows and like influencing the people that you're supposed to be leading and guiding? Because I know you've heard these types of things. So it's like, how do you reconcile that, or how do you think about that, or how do you help people process that?
I mean, I just typically don't operate out of fear. I'm not, like, worried about, could this possibly happen? It's like, no, God, like, what are you doing? What do you want to do? I'm going to go after that. And am I afraid of people showing up on drugs? No, I'm not, because Jesus is bigger than that. And I want people that don't know Jesus to show up to these shows and encounter him. And so I'm not cutting off anybody from coming to these shows. Might that freak out, some person who's never been anything outside of the church? Like, sure. But also, like, welcome to the real world, buddy. If we want to disciple nations and meet everybody and have them all encounter Jesus, like, you're going to come across people that aren't like you at all. And how do you still love them in the midst of whatever choices they're making? And so I love the fact that this is a bridge. It's going to teach Christians like, hey, this is how you go and love people in the real world. Stop hiding over here. Right. It's also going to show people that have never been to church, like, this is who Jesus is.
Well, and you're meeting people where they are.
You have to.
And so that's why it's so hard sometimes when you are trying to be a bridge, is that people think that you're a destination, but you're actually trying to be a bridge. You're trying to connect this world to this one. And this one is not what people think it is. This world over here that you're trying to connect people to is Jesus.
Yep. So
you operate in the world that he operated in, where he was meeting people where they were, where he was, you know what I mean? So
that's where I always...
It's way more simple than people make it out to be.
But I just get so confused when people are like, they're so afraid of, like, sinners and sin. I'm like, look, like, who did Jesus hang out with? Like, he wasn't afraid. Like, why? I don't know, man. Christians confuse me sometimes. And, but I will always... I will always have the people in mind that don't know Jesus in whatever it is that we're doing. And if we are building a movement that cuts them off, I don't believe that's the fullness of what God has for this movement. There are some things, like, you are a worship movement and you are a leader, and, like, you live in the church and you are writing songs to empower and lift up and equip the church. Awesome. Go crush that. This is not that lane. Like, I don't think about these songs being played at church ever.
Well, they are.
Those churches are about to get some hate mail. No, I'm kidding.
Well, they are.
I love it.
They are. Well, they're. Yeah.
That's just not my North Star when it comes to, like, what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. King Topher, worship leader, house DJ.
I mean, I do consider, like, what I do. I am leading worship.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like Sunday morning.
Come on. And, man, or what people think it is, think Sunday morning is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't what the future needs. Man, dude,
right.
I've thought about, why is there, we've talked about this. We were FaceTiming about this the other day or something like this, but
also, real quick, for everyone that doesn't know, the first time we were FaceTime, you're on a freaking ski lift. And you're like, hey, man, I'm on a ski lift. Da-da-da-da. I was like, bro, why are you talking to me right now? Go ski. I got a few minutes. And it was just so funny. I loved it.
It was so
you were all in from FaceTime 1.
Oh, man, all in from FaceTime 1. You got to be. You got to be. Honestly,
great.
that was hilarious. That was a funny day. I was teaching my whole family how to snowboard that day. So we were wild.
Talking to this guy who throws raves, guys, like, give me a second.
Well, we were on the lift, so you got time.
I
You got time. And so I think this is really important, because I'm even thinking about this. Why can't we have house DJs at church? Because we play music. Well, why wouldn't we bring you or someone like you or the generation that you're building up into spaces where it's like, hey, play some music that encourages people right here in this space, the in-betweens. And then guess what? I know a DJ, friend of mine in this city who's come to know Jesus. He's doing some amazing things. And he was like, well, I play these tables, or I play this switcher like this person plays the piano and that person plays the drums. So I'm a musician just like them.
Yeah.
I can just play all of the instruments and they're just playing one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yes, and I love that. So if that's the case, why couldn't we have someone lead a worship set in a church setting?
Yeah.
And you're doing it, and I was like, oh, man. And then
I do think it will become... I think it'd be fun for us to have this conversation again in like 3 years about this topic specifically. Yeah. Because
after we do a few projects together.
I do think there are going to be churches that really like, oh no, this is cool, and this is what God's on, and this is he is doing something in this space. We should, I think there's gonna be more. There's do you know Antonio and Allison, like the famous string players in the Christian world?
Yeah,
they are on like every project.
I do,
and they're unbelievable. They live in Reading as well, and he's
who doesn't live in Reading?
You what?
I said, who doesn't live in Reading?
A lot of people, but he's always like, give it 3 years. Every church is going to be playing house music. He's like, it's the new worship leader. And I was like, dude, you're best friends and you sing and you work, or you play on like every big time Christian project. You are involved in it. He's like, I'm telling you, bro, like this is going to be the thing.
No, it totally
and
is.
I was like, I don't know, man. Like it, but if people like him, like in the thick of it, like he believes it, I'm like, all right.
No, I'm
gonna wait and see what happens.
I was seeing it 2 years ago. And I'm excited to we're going to do it here in Denver. So
it.
we're doing it right now,
Yeah.
actually. So we did it last night, actually.
go.
So
Yeah, I think it's great.
yeah, don't tell everybody.
No. Nobody else do cool things until
Nobody
they get
else.
it really down,
No,
then do it.
No,
No.
everybody do. Everyone. I think everyone should. Man, I'm excited about what you're doing. If somebody wants to connect, will you give them all the ways that's best for you in this?
Instagram or TikTok.
King Topher.
Well, there's the Royal King Topher on Instagram, which is my personal page. Then there's the Rave Jesus page, which is at Rave Jesus Music.
Yep.
On Instagram, on TikTok, it might just be at Rave Jesus, or it's at Rave Jesus Music.
And it's Royal King Topher on Spotify as well.
There's King Topher, which is my personal stuff.
Okay.
And there's the Rave Jesus page on Spotify, which is all of the music that we've been talking about.
All right. Yeah.
So the Rave Jesus stuff is all of this movement.
Yeah.
And then there's the King Topher stuff, which is like everything that was before this movement.
Yeah. We were having literally a worship service last night, our second one in Denver, and you were the house DJ. So I don't know if that's happened yet, but
next time I play in Denver, I should just come in a night earlier and we'll throw a pop-up.
Well, let's throw a pop-up
worship set.
I'm
fun.
Where do I sign? Yeah, I know.
I mean, yeah. We're obviously in touch. We should. We'll figure something out.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So many things. You got to.
No, I got time.
You got a place to go, stuff to do, and we're gonna hang out. I got a few things I want to talk to you about after this.
Yeah.
So, well, sick. Hey, thank you guys. Connect with Royal King Topher or King Topher or Rave Music Jesus.
No, just Rave Jesus.
Rave Jesus. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all
Rave
good.
Jesus. Key. Rave Jesus. Check that music out. Be playing it. Share it with everyone. Follow him on all the things.
There's going to be a huge tour this fall, so hit us up no matter what city you're in. We'll get you signed up for notifications for those cities. But, yeah, there's a massive tour that's happening this fall that none of it is announced yet, so don't feel like you're missing out on anything.
But you're going to want to stay up. They're going to want to stay up to date.
Yeah, if you want to stay updated on anything, new songs, merch, all the touring stuff, hit me up on Instagram or TikTok, and we'll keep you in the loop with everything.
Man, I'm fired up. Let's go.
God's wild, bro.
Let's go.
He's wild.
We just got to get people experiencing just everything you're talking about. So, man.
Well, hopefully this podcast inspires them a little bit.
Yeah, they will. It's inspired me, man, and the people in the room. So, appreciate you. Appreciate you guys. Full Vantage Podcast. This is the vantage point of my friends and the people that I want to learn from. Be learning from people like this who are trying to take things, create things in a new way. That's why we're doing this podcast. Men like this, people like this. So, see you guys later.